Everyone's concerned that electric vehicles cause more fires than gasoline-powered vehicles, but electric vehicles per 100,000 vehicles, on average, only 25 of them catch fire. On the other hand, gasoline vehicles run about 1,520 cars catch on fire powered by gasoline out of 100,000. Now the caveat is hybrid vehicles that have gasoline and electric, they actually catch a little more than the two of them combined.
What was the car that started this fire?
Don't know. When we showed up, there were 50 cars on fire. Also, I could say it was probably in that general location where you have the most damage.
Yeah. All right, well, let's start the ready. Can I get you to say, you look right at me, can I get you to say your first and last name?
Charles Drysdale.
How do you spell it?
D-R-Y-S-D-A-L-E.
What's your title, sir?
Battalion Chief.
Of JFRD?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and just for the record, what was your role in combating this fire?
I was second on scene, and the first chief on scene becomes an incident commander. So throughout the incident, I was basically in charge of the actions and the tactics of the fire.
So you were in charge of putting the fire out, essentially?
Well,
or commanding everyone to put it out?
I was what we call incident commander, but we had multiple chiefs on scene, probably had over 100 firefighters, so each person has a role.
Okay. Do you want to move away from the car? There's the car. Okay. So can I say you were one of the heads of putting out this fire?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I mean, just walk us through, what was it like?
We had, well, my fire station's over on Main Street. As soon as we got to 95, we could see the column of smoke. So we knew we had a very large fire. The initial arriving reports by the first officer was a very good report, and he was reporting multiple cars on scene. We're getting additional reports of people evacuating, having trouble evacuating, so we knew it was all hands on deck. The first officer called for a second alarm right off the bat, which was a good move.
And what is the second alarm?
A second alarm basically adds additional engine companies and fire trucks and a chief to the scene. Okay. He knew it was going to be bigger than what our normal assignment was. And an assignment for what would be considered a high-rise commercial building is a very large assignment to begin with.
So we're here at this...
We'll change it a little bit here.
Okay. I mean, we're here at the site right now of where this all happened. Can you walk us through where you were, where you first saw the fire? Just, you could point, you could...
Well, as we came around the corner, we could see fire blowing out 20, 30 feet, going up in the sky, and we parked just down below, about probably 30, 40 foot from the fire itself.
Was there ever a moment where you thought, oh my gosh, I can't do this?
No, ma'am. I knew we had a lot of units on scene. The main concern was water supply, and to give the airport a lot of credit, we were able to flow probably at its peak 4,000 gallons a minute of water, which is a tremendous amount of water, and we had that on the fire within 14 minutes. So I guess you could say we came in with heavy artillery, and we were able to knock the fire down.
Now, something I want to ask you is, are you the one who made the call to pull the firefighters out for safety purposes?
The first engine company was covering the evacuation of the basically the people who were trying to get their cars. They were leaving the parking garage and having some trouble, so he was able to take the first line and protect that evacuation. And once we were assured that everyone was out, what we call a primary and secondary search, he was able, because of the heat conditions, he made the decision to pull out. Our primary concern is life safety, so as long as there's lice involved, we're going to push that envelope. As soon as there's no longer lice involved, that's when we made the decision to completely, what we call, go defensive and not put any firefighters at risk and do everything can to stop the spread of the fire.
So just so I understand, you're saying that it wasn't you that made the call, it was someone else who made the call to pull everyone out?
Well, he made the call to pull out. He was backing up, and with that information backing up, I knew he was the only interior operator. And at that point, we tell everybody, stay outside of the building.
Now, did you go inside the fire?
No, ma'am. An incident commander stays out in what we call a how would you say, a visual position. So if anyone needs to approach me, sometimes the radio communications get so busy that you have to be able to walk up to the person and tell them something. So I stay outside.
Okay. Let me make sure I'm not missing anything here. Let me ask you this. So we've learned that there are no sprinkler systems inside this garage. Do you think that would have made a difference?
Sure, it could make a difference. Per code, as far as I'm aware, I'm not a building inspector or a life safety codes plan review person, but it's my understanding with what we consider this as an open parking garage. It doesn't have any offices below it or any residents above it, so it's open, which you can notice, you can see all sides. They're not required to have sprinklers. Now, if it were closed or attached to a building, or there were officers below or above it, they would have to have sprinklers.
So could this fire have been worse?
If we hadn't got a handle on it, I believe they've had parking garage fires that have essentially burned down to the ground, and as you can see, cement columns, T-beams have fallen. It was a very extremely hot fire. Past parking garages have burned up completely and lost every car that was in it, so we were fortunate to get this one under control.
Okay. And why do you think you were able to get this one under control? Was it the response time? Was it what was it?
Well, I can say with a lot of pride, we have some incredible men and women with this fire department, and they were hitting on all cylinders. They were solving problems, getting water supply, putting a lot of water on it, not getting themselves hurt in the process, and I can't say how proud I am of them. They did a great job.
That's amazing. Now, can you describe to me in detail what you saw? Like melting car, like give me some detail.
A lot of explosions. The fire was bright orange. As you can see, it's basically about 200 feet long, going about 40, 50 foot up in the air. You can hear the glass breaking as the windows are failing, the tires are blowing up. Lots of things on cars that can catch fire. More than likely, the gas tanks were rupturing and pouring gas on the fire, so we're getting a lot of sounds that you normally wouldn't get from a smaller fire.
And we don't know the cause of the fire yet.
Obviously, a vehicle probably caught the fire. That'll be up to investigators. I know they have videos of inside of the parking garages, so I'm sure they're reviewing that. And when I left the scene, there were already 2 state fire marshal investigators on scene.
And what does that tell you? So is that normal for ATF and state fire marshals to be here?
Well, considering this is an airport, yes.
Okay.
Any incident is going to involve all the acronym governing agencies.
So did you do anything that salvaged the garage?
Structurally, they're going to have some problems. Obviously, they're going to have to rebuild at least that portion of the garage. Now, the interesting thing about this garage is actually 2 halves. So the one half is probably not involved. That is probably saved. But given the damage on this one, I'm not an engineer, but I wouldn't be surprised if they have to rebuild the whole thing.
Okay. So when you got here, you saw the fire was pretty much contained in this whole section. Not contained, but...
Well, definitely not contained.
No, but... So...
It was only in the second.
Yes,
Right.
it was only in the section.
Yeah, that's a good question. As fire heat goes up, so it's typically the fire spreads out, what we call mushrooming, and it mushroomed towards both ends and towards the depth. We were having reports of a lot of forward progress. It was expanding rapidly. You could also see fire was hitting the tops of these cars that were on the top level, and they weren't catching on fire yet, but would have if we hadn't stopped it.
So how quick was the response time here?
Let's see, engine 16, I can't say exactly, but I know they arrived before I ever left the station.
And how many gallons of water?
My estimate, it depends on how much was flowing between these, what we call large master streams, but my estimate, just based on how many units were in service, between 3,500 and 4,000 gallons per minute. And think about it, 8 pounds per water, that's over 30,000 pounds of water being applied per minute into this parking garage, which is what it takes, because think about a car. It's full of plastics, rubber, gasoline, electric vehicles, batteries, lithium. They produce a tremendous amount of heat, each car.
And I know you talked about this earlier beforehand, but any chance you know what type of vehicle it was when I asked you?
I wasn't privy to watching the videos. I was pretty busy.
Trying to think of anything else you would ask here. So this could have been worse.
Absolutely. If we would not got a handle on it, it would have spread throughout the entire parking garage, maybe into the other parking garage.
Walk us, I mean, I just have so many questions for you here. So did you see the building collapse?
You could hear it. You couldn't see through the fire. The fire was so thick you couldn't see inside the parking garage itself. It's just nothing but orange. But you could feel when the columns fell, you could hear a loud boom, and you could feel it. My truck was right down below, and whenever a column would feel, I could feel the whole ground shake.
Really?
Yeah, and we got reports from the 2nd floor and the 3rd floors were collapsing. So we all felt it, but for the people that actually saw it, you report that. And at that point, we'd become concerned about a collapse zone, where the building not only can it collapse, but can fall out. So once the column started falling, we created a collapse zone and moved everybody back even further, so in case the building fell out.
Let me ask you this, and I might be asking the same question just in different ways here, but what I'm curious about is, so So men and women did go inside at first.
At first, yes, ma'am.
How long did it take for you to say and do it was told?
I couldn't say. It's hard to measure time when the tempo's moving that fast, but 5, 6, 7 minutes.
Really?
I'm not sure. The first engine 16, the airport engine, the first thing they do when they arrived is they went to the standpipe. And the standpipe allows you to take hose lines at different floors without having to stretch hose line up stairwells. It's a quicker way of putting water on the fire. So they quickly hooked to the standpipe, went to the third deck, and then covered the evacuation. They also had a crew, or at least a firefighter, up on the fourth deck covering the evacuation. And when they showed up, people were trying to leave the building.
So were there people inside the building when the fire broke out?
I'm sure.
Yeah. Do you think there's anyone else in there now?
We hope not. We've done everything we can in order to safely search it. We were able to search with drones, able to search with dogs. One of the considerations was moving the dogs too close because those are considered hazardous materials right now. And we don't want the dogs sniffing benzines and gasolines and all the other terrible things. But as far as we know, there's nobody in that collapse zone.
Now you've battled, how long have you been working at JFRD or in the firefighting industry?
Firefighting industry, about 40 years.
Have you seen a fire like this?
No, ma'am. I've been in a lot of big fires, T2 chemical plants and such, but in terms of a parking garage fire of this magnitude, nope. Although we did have a parking garage fire, but it was floating, called the Hogue Shaman ship fire about 5 years ago.
So, but this is a fire you've never seen. You've never seen a fire as bad?
Yes, just not in a parking garage.
Okay. Is it the craziest fire you've battled in Jacksonville this year or up there?
This year, yes,
Okay.
but I don't know, 40 years. I'd have to think back. I've been to a lot of crazy stuff.
Yeah. Anything that could have been done differently?
I can't think of anything. What we will do is do an after action, a hot wash. We're probably going to involve the airport folks. They did a great job. Security did a great job. So like I said, everybody's hitting on all cylinders. That's why it went out. But we will still get everybody together and all the key players, go over every piece in detail, because during the fog of war, you're not sure exactly what someone's doing on the other side. So we're going to get all the notes together and see what we can do better next time.
Anything else you'd like to add?
Get a lot of questions about electric cars versus gasoline cars. I've had at least 50 people say was an electric car that started it. Can't say for certain, but statistically, electric cars only catch fire about 25 times out of 100,000 cars. Gasoline cars, about 1,520 times per 100,000 cars. The issue is not that they catch fire more often, but when they do catch fire, it takes a tremendous amount of water to put them out. A good firefighter can put a fully involved car fire out with 50 gallons of water, maybe 300 gallons at the most. But an EV car, an electrical vehicle car, may take anywhere from 12,000 to 20,000 gallons of water to put it out.
So you're basically saying gasoline fires are more likely to catch fire,
According to statistics,
but
from what
it's
I've
easier
read.
to be put out.
Absolutely.